All right, so let's start talking about how object-oriented programming puts data first. So far in our programming class here, our focus has been on the methods in our program, setup, draw, mouse clicked, and so on. So in other words, we've been focusing on what the program does. Okay? The data that it's done to, whatever it is, has been sort of a secondary or peripheral type of a thing. When we really get into object-oriented programming focuses first on the data and then sort of wrapping it up with all the methods that can be done to the data, and so that puts that all in the same place. So in other words, the what is packaged with the what happens all in one object, okay? And so let's take a look at that in terms of an MP3 player, and we'll be revisiting an example that we looked at in Chapter 4, the 4-song MP3 player example. So if you remember back from Chapter 4, our MP3 player looked like this. We had 4 separate songs that were represented by images here, just various pieces of stuff sitting around, and when we would click on one of those, then a song would start playing. If we clicked on another one would play, and so on. If we clicked any place outside of one of the images, then whatever was currently playing would stop. Okay? So that was intended to show how to do selection in processing. And if you think about it, there were actually 5 separate things or pieces of data that represented every song. Okay, so we have the image that's displayed, a title, which is a string. We had its X and Y location where all of this stuff has to be displayed. And then we have the song itself, which really is invisible, but represented externally to the user by the picture and the image. Okay? And those are all in that program that we had before. Those are all separate pieces. Okay? And so what that led to is code that looked sort of like this. So in our draw method, we had to take care of the images separately, draw 4 images with 4 separate image calls, and then we had to do the labels with 4 separate text calls. And mouse clicked was even worse, because now we have to do all of the detection of whether or not our click happened on a song in the program, in the mouse clicked, okay? So with something like this, if our mouse Y was greater than the image top and less than equal to image top plus image size, that would be if it's in the right position up and down wise. Then we check to see if it's left and right over one of the images, right? Okay, so just remember the complexity of those, because there was a lot going on there. And intent was to learn about ifs, right, and selection. So that's okay, but we can do better. So what if we take all 5 of those things and wrap them up into one bigger object, okay? So this larger object, whatever we call it, will have 5 pieces of data inside it. An image, the song to play, the title for it, and its XY location. And then it will expose an interface, which is represented by these smaller boxes here. And think of those like the buttons on a remote control. Those will be the things that this larger object, whatever we call it, know how to do. Okay? So we're going to encapsulate all those data pieces into a class like this. Okay, so this is a UML diagram that corresponds to the image on the previous slide. You can see that we've got our 5 pieces of data listed as fields in the UML class diagram, our caption, image, song, X and Y. Okay, and then we have our methods. So we have 2 constructors, overloaded constructors, a default constructor and a initializing constructor, and we'll talk about constructors more down the line. And then the rest of the things it knows how to do. It knows how to draw itself. It knows how to tell whether or not it was clicked based on the X and Y location where the mouse was. It knows how to pause itself, and it knows how to play itself. So now all of the complicated stuff is taken care of by the object itself. So check out how this simplifies our draw and our mouse click pieces. Okay? So first of all, what's going on is we've got all of our songs in an array. And so to draw it, I erase my background, and then I go through my songs array and just tell them, draw yourself. Okay, much simpler than the previous version. Mouse clicked also is even more simplified, right? I go through all of the songs in the array, pause them, and then say if this song was clicked on by the mouse key or mouse pointer, then play it. That's pretty cool. Okay, so this will simplify our work a lot if we can encapsulate those pieces inside a class. So in our next video, we'll do a code tour of that actual application and demonstrate it working.